my fellow readers. Today I'm going to be talking about Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. Margaret Owen is the author of the Merciful Crow series, well, duology. There's only 2 books, which I read, let's see, I think the last book came out in 2020. I'm gonna get that. Yeah, because this would have been 2021. So The Faithless Hawk was 2020's release, and The Merciful Crow I think was out in 2019. And I liked that duology, and so I was interested in seeing what else Margaret Owen had to offer. And I mean, look at that cover. This looks like classic fantasy fairy tale-esque story. And it really is. When the story opens, our protagonist Vanya is small. I mean, like really small. And her mother offers her up as, I guess, a sacrifice. But from that moment on, Vanya is set up as the goddaughter of death and fortune. So she really, what this boils down to essentially is that she's going to have to make a choice between being the apprentice of death or being the apprentice of fortune. And this never really pleases Vanya. She doesn't want to have to choose between one or the other of her godmothers, death and fortune. And she also feels like she's been forced to accept that as her role. Now, the storytelling in this is kind of complex because you're following the main narrative, which is Vanya as, I believe she's 17. She's on the verge of adulthood. And at this point, when the narrative mainly takes place, she knows that time is running out. For the life of me, I can't remember if she's turning 17 or she's turning 18. She might be 16 turning 17. Regardless, she's like at this cusp right now where she knows she's going to be forced to choose between either death or fortune. And she's actually desperately trying to escape the territory of death and fortune, which I don't even know if that's entirely possible, but she believes that since these entities really are the belief system and lore of this area, that if she flees, she won't have to make that choice. So we follow that main narrative of Vanya making these other choices in order to try to escape her destiny. And her main choices that she's making is she is essentially a thief. We find out that she has stolen her persona of who she is. So she's pretending to be Giselle, who is a noble lady. I think she's a princess. And under this guise, she has been stealing from noble families. So not only did she steal her identity, but she's also been stealing from noble families. You do come to learn through a series of backstories, like little vignettes that occur throughout the book, more about Vanya's past, including the fact that Death and Fortune knew they couldn't really raise Vanya, so they set her up as a servant in this royal household where Giselle was the princess. So kind of Vanya was her servant, but also her friend from the time they were very small. But then Vanya ends up betrayed by her in the family, which is why she felt justified in taking Giselle's appearance and I wouldn't say personhood, but her role. And she left Giselle essentially out in the cold as a poor girl. Like, she became this just poverty-stricken girl. And when she tried to go back to the palace and say, like, hey, I'm the princess, everybody laughed at her. And so she's been, like, destitute, I think, in an orphanage since then. So, it's a very complex story. But you have the setup now, where Vanya wants to escape her destiny, so she's stealing. Beyond that, when Vanya steals from her latest house and tries to escape, she's actually captured by the god of the wood, who curses Vanya. And the curse is she has to give back everything she's stolen by a certain date, and if she does not, she will die. And as proof of this, she actually gets marked on her cheek, I believe, with a gemstone. So essentially she is going to start turning into gems, into stone, until she dies. And so each time she does something wrong, or the longer she takes, like wrong as in stealing, the more she will break out in these gemstones. After she is cursed, Vanya ends up with, I guess, a traveling companion, which is the daughter of the god of the wood, who takes the form a lot of times of a cat, but can transform into other things, being a half god. So you get this nice interaction with that. On top of that, there is a junior detective who is trying to uncover the thief behind all of these noble robberies that have been coming. And of course, a lot of people kind of blow him off as not having any power or value because he's the junior detective, even though he says his master is coming. They don't believe that he has any ability in and of himself, so he's kind of not seen as being able to help, or in Vanya's case, as a threat, since she's the thief that is hiding. And the final main twist of this is that Vanya, as Giselle, because it's really Giselle, has a fiance. And the fiance is actually a pretty terrible person and character. So Vanya also has the deadline looming of trying to get out before she, as Giselle, is forced to marry this guy. And there's a whole other plot involved with that guy and what he's trying to accomplish with the whole marriage to Giselle. So overall, I really enjoyed this one. I liked the unraveling of the story and the depth of the characters and their backstory, because Vanya especially, it gets revealed what she has gone through and what's made her who she is right now. And I think it's essential to her that you see that, because it helps with the empathy of, you get why she's doing what she's doing. You know that it's not right in many ways. It's not the right choice. But at the same time, you get how she feels like backed against a wall, and also why she feels betrayed by the family that was supposed to help protect her, and also betrayed by death and fortune, because they left her in that situation. And I really enjoyed that. I found it just good storytelling. I wanted to read on and discover more. I think that this book's design in general is beautiful. Like there's these art pieces put in. Space for a minute, couldn't remember what they're called. And actually, I pre-ordered this book and I never got to show, and now they're put away, but I actually got a free set of art cards for pre-ordering that had a lot of the artwork in it, but they were full color. So this is good if you like fairy tales and fairy tale fantasy, but want kind of a modernization of that. Then I would definitely recommend Little Thieves. I think a big part of me was also drawn to the character who I think is the god of the wood in the background, because they reminded me a lot of the Japanese stories that are actually based on Celtic stories. So however you want to phrase that, but you know, if you have the Ancient Magus Bride, Elias's character design was kind of like that, and also in The Girl from the Other Side, a lot of the characters for that had a similar kind of design to it. And so I think I was drawn to that because I was like, oh, I wonder if it incorporates that lore and mythology. And it may have. I'm not really 100%. Again, this story will continue, but it does have a good conclusion to this part of the narrative. So while I am intrigued enough to go on to the next one. I think people could read this one and be satisfied with it. I feel like they could complete it and be like, okay, I don't have to read the second one. But again, it's intriguing enough to where you may want to read the second one, which in my case I do. Yeah, so give Little Thieves by Margaret Owen a chance. If you do enjoy fantasy, then you might want to also try her other duology, The Merciful Crow. I thought that was an interesting, again, world building, characters, and that's the whole reason I picked up this one, is because I enjoyed that duology so much that I was like, I want to see what else she has, what else she has up her sleeve. I was going to say not what else she has written, because she just, it wasn't written yet, but could write. So yeah, that is it for this video. Until next time, bye.